I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mish Shedlock, editor of Mish's Global Economic Trend Analysis on MishTalk.com. Welcome to the show, Mish.
Oh, pleasure to be back on.
I noticed one of the articles that you published was about the Saudis now writing IOUs instead of paying their bills. Did we ever expect this day to happen?
Well, I mean, some of us have known that Saudi Arabia has been in trouble for quite some time, mainly corrupt spending of those in control of money on themselves. I mean, buying, cars made out of silver and that kind of thing, really obscene. Meanwhile, the basic population struggles to maintain any kind of living. So very lavish spending on the part of the wealth holders. Very little of the oil money that oil production and the money thereof actually got to the hands of the people in Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, they have one of the most repressed populations, in the world in terms of what women can and can't do, get an education and the like. Saudi Arabia also sponsors ISIS directly. So these are things you don't hear about. And of the attacks in 9/11, 15 of the 19 people were Saudi nationals, not Iranians, not people from Iraq. So
and they did not come through Canada either.
Yeah, well, you can be thankful for that. Well, they don't have a gripe with Canada because Canada minds its own business, and the U.S. doesn't.
Well, have the Saudis set themselves up for a revolution?
Actually, they have, and we'll see what happens. They're very afraid of it. They're afraid of the Shias surrounding them. They're afraid of Iran. They're afraid of their neighboring countries that have Shiite populations. So, we'll see. Meanwhile, U.S. dependence on Saudi Arabia oil, global dependence on Saudi Arabia oil is collapsing. There's, new output in the United States, more output in Canada, although unfortunately some of it is burning. And, Russia, increased production. So, if and when the Venezuela collapse ever finishes and someone is in control over there, one of the first things they're going to revive in Venezuela is oil production, and that will add still more supply to the global markets.
Well, I've seen the Saudi largesse up close and personal in London, where 3 gold-plated Rolls Royces pulled up and about, 20, 25 wives rolled out. Maybe they'll have to cut back to 1 Rolls and 12 wives.
Yeah, 1 gold-plated Rolls and 8 wives or something. Yes, exactly.
And what about the average person there? I understand that you don't, up until now you didn't have to work, that they had guaranteed national income. If that is cut off, those are going to be people who would be ready to sign up for ISIS, aren't they?
Pretty much. And without a doubt, Saudi is fueling this. So we'll see where it goes. Meanwhile, a bill passed in Congress here, the Senate, that will allow U.S. citizens to press charges against Saudis for 9/11. President Obama threatened to veto that. More than likely he will. I doubt that they would have a majority big enough to override him, but next year something like that could pass. And there's a downside to that too, and maybe also a good upside to that too. Is if the United States can sue them for that, why can't other nations sue the United States for our drone policy? And as far as I'm concerned, anything that gets us to stop our drone policy that says that we've got the right anywhere in the world to go in and blow anyone up, despite the collateral damage to innocent kids. Anything that gets us to stop that is fine with me. So if someone wants to sue the United States over that, I'm all in favor of it.
Does that perhaps explain some of the popularity for Trump, because he wants to withdraw the U.S. from all these foreign incursions and concentrate on domestic policy?
Absolutely. In fact, that's the only legitimate reason to be for Trump here. His stance on free trade is absolutely wrong. I think the U.S. has been a big beneficiary of actually what little free trade there is. Has been a beneficiary of cheap prices from China. We should be grateful for that. Not wanting to go out there and hike tariffs to protect a few thousand jobs here. It doesn't make any sense for people to pay three times as much for a product to save a few thousand manufacturing jobs. So Donald Trump is absolutely wrong on this, but his stance on isolation of stop getting involved in these stupid wars, making Europe pay its own way for NATO, even to the point where the U.S. could conceivably get out of NATO. That's going to have a lot of independence. Taking a strong look here at his positions on things, and of the positions of Hillary, who is a big as warmonger as President Bush.
Well, of course, people wonder why the U.S. had the isolationist policies before World War I and World War II. Well, it was because of the horrible casualties in the U.S. Civil War, and there were still survivors from that war to remind people about the horrible death toll and the number of maimed people who came back missing arms and legs. And then, Vietnam, a great example, 60,000 dead Americans, how many hundreds of thousands of wounded, and look, Vietnam's still there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's communist.
And they're our trading partner now. The whole domino theory was a bunch of bullshit, and the idea that Saddam Hussein had these weapons of mass destruction was bullshit. We all knew this going in. Anyone with any bit of common sense knew that going in. Bush wanted a war, and he got it. And that, a lot of legislation, a lot of things presidents can't do on their own accord, but they've shown marked propensity to do whatever the hell they want to get a war going anywhere where they really want one. So that is the advantage of someone like Trump. We don't know what he will do actually, but we do know what Hillary will do, and we've seen enough of her.
Will Trump and the Republican Congress kiss and make up?
Well, let's first see if he gets elected first. Meanwhile, let's shift back here to the economy. The New York Fed came out today. William Dudley, president of the New York Fed, came out today, and he said the Fed is data dependent. So I said, by all means, let's take a look at the data. And I went through and just posted the first 10 charts, in the Fed's report, GDP below potential, labor markets improvement in a slowdown, inflation softens below the Fed objectives, GDP growth in the last 4 quarters was 3.9%, 2%, 1.4%, and is projected now to be 0.5% in the first quarter. We haven't seen a second quarter projection yet. Manufacturing has been in an outright recession, but the slide, here, shows industrial production and manufacturing flattening out here right around zero. Disposable income is actually up. That's probably one of the more positive things. However, it's up because of wage hikes, of minimum wage hikes. And if you look at the retail sales reports, the last set of merchant retailers got hammered. Macy's losing money. Nordstrom, Walmart, all had miserable sales. And if they've got miserable sales and miserable earnings, it goes to figure they're not going to expand as many stores as they would have otherwise. And on top of that, they've got increasing benefit costs. Obamacare is one of the prices that is going up. And we've got rent prices going up. Consumers are tapped out. That explains why they're not spending. Consumer spending was flat in March. Again, that's straight off of the New York Fed report. And so we've investment in capital, equipment investment and capacity utilization, right off the Fed report. Investment in new equipment remains sluggish. Non-residential investment is still falling. Housing flat. These are titles right off the Fed report today, and they say they're data dependent. So what data are they looking at, Jim? I can't figure it out.
Well, I saw somebody putting odds of a rate hike by the Fed, and it doubled. It went up to 28% today. And on what information?
Well, on the information that yesterday the Fed mentioned in the April FOMC, they mentioned the word June 6 times. So the market took a clue from that. The odds of a hike went up from 4 days ago. I think they were like 8%. Then the next day they went 15 in advance of this little thing. So it's like someone might have known something there. And then they doubled from 15% to 30% on this, report here, or release of the minutes that showed, the Fed was looking at June. Well, they can look at June all they want. We'll see if they actually hike. If they can't convince the market that a rate hike is coming, the Fed ain't going to hike, in my opinion.
We'll have more with Mish Shedlock right after the break.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mike Shedlock. Mish, I know one of the topics you bring up a lot are the robot cars, robot trucks, robot taxis. How realistic is that right now?
I think I've not been optimistic enough. People tell me that I'm way too optimistic, that it's not going to happen. Some people don't think it's ever going to happen. They cite snow and they cite insurance. Actually, I think insurance rates will drop because I think robot drivers will have fewer accidents than drunk and tired people and drunk and tired truck drivers. So the latest announcements were kind of interesting. I did a report back on my blog back in February. Someone emailed me, and I believed it, and the person said they saw a truck on I-80 in Nevada with no driver. And I took a lot of flack for that. So wow, you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Going on a report like that. It's kind of funny because just yesterday, a company disclosed that they have been testing actual driverless vehicles, on the roads in Nevada. Not very many miles, but I think it's likely that the person that emailed me actually saw one of these tests where it was going on. And this technology comes from 4 ex-Google employees. They've got a lot of money. It's not private equity. The government's not giving them any money to do this. They've developed this technology on their own accord. It was the same guy that invented the driverless car for Google, formed his own company, took 4 Google engineers or engineers that used to work for Google with him, and they've developed this technology. And instead of building a brand new truck from scratch, they're going to retrofit these trucks with all the radar and everything they need, so that they can operate without a driver. And so now we've seen reports of new manufacturing companies that are actually going to make fully autonomous trucks from scratch. We've got a second approach here now that says we're going to be able to retrofit these trucks. I bumped up my time lane as a result of reading these posts from 2020 to 2019. I think it's going to happen by then, and I bumped my timeline up from 2024 to 2022 to when literally millions of long-haul truck driving jobs just vanish into thin air. Technology is happening here at an absolutely amazing pace. I think it's good. It's going to lower the price of goods and services, but it's also very disruptive here. It's going to put a lot of people out of work.
Well, at the oil sands, those giant earth-moving machines are the size of hotels. Well, the new ones they're getting are equipped to be robots to replace the $200,000 a year drivers.
Absolutely. They're using them right now in Australia for all kinds of mining, and it's going to catch on elsewhere. Australia seems to be leading the edge in terms of mining, on this, but the rest of the world is going to catch up.
Well, I'm looking forward to the day I can sit in the back seat, drink a coffee, read the newspaper on the way to work.
Is it drunken driving anymore if you're drunk and a robot's driving?
That's what I want to know. That's, I mean, really, because right now they have care and control. If you so much as open the door of your car and you're impaired, they'll charge you with impaired driving because you could have driven it. Of course, using that same logic, they should arrest me for impaired driving if I'm drinking at home because my car is 3 steps away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, anyway, this technology is coming. It's very disruptive. I think it's to everyone's benefit here. The technology is inherently deflationary, and that's one of the things the Fed is fighting here, pushing for inflation, trying to drive up wages in an economy that is technologically quite deflationary. That's the big battle going on here. I think a currency crisis is going to result from this sometime. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. It doesn't look pretty when all these central banks think they can impose their will on the markets. The markets are going to have the last say here, Jim.
Mish, thank you very much for chatting with us.
Pleasure to be on the show.
My guest has been Mike Mish Shedlock, editor of Mish's Global Economic Trend Analysis on MishTalk.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com Radio. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Comments can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com Radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com Radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.